So I'm just leaving the beach, and as you can see, I had stopped at 7-Eleven to grab a coffee. And in the background, you can see some incredible oceanfront mansions that are just unbelievably nice. And I share that because there's such a contrast of haves and the have-nots and the wealth gap that exists, which I don't normally talk about, but as I mentioned, I went to 7-Eleven on my way to the beach to grab some coffee, and I was approached by a gentleman who looked pretty haggard. He looked like he was down on his luck, a little bit older than me. He asked if I would buy him a drink, and I said sure. When I say drink, he was asking for a soda. And so I asked him if he was also hungry, and he said he was. So we walked into 7-Eleven. I grabbed him the soda that he wanted. Actually, that's not true. If I'm being totally accurate, he wanted a 2-liter of Pepsi, which they did not have. But whatever, got him what they had, his next choice. And I not only got him one, but I got him two, and I got him some food. Now, I'm not sharing that to brag about how great I am by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sharing it because it's a wake-up call to me that there is a lot of people out there that are suffering right now, that are facing financial hardship, that are in economic pain, that don't know where their next meal's coming from. Fortunately, I'm in a position where I can go out there and buy him something to eat and something to drink, which really isn't that big of a deal, but it's just a good reminder that there are lots of folks that are in economic crisis right now. And, I've done lots of content talking about what I think could happen in the future and what the housing market conditions can look like in the future. But I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not Nostradamus. I'm not an economist. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lot of things, but I am a full-time, full-service real estate professional that is boots on the ground, actively servicing the local community. And almost everyone that I consult with has money. They're able to go out there and buy the homes that they want to. And the fact that interest rates have gone from 3% to 6%, or if they go to 10%, like I think they're going to at some point in the future, like they were back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, most of the people that I talk to are not in any type of economic pain. They can go out there and do whatever they want. And that's great. I'm blessed to be able to work with those types of clients. But that's not everybody. There's a lot of people out there that are feeling this squeeze, that are definitely going to feel the economic changes that are bound to happen as we go into 2023 and 2024. Now, November numbers came out in the state of Florida, and to no surprise of mine, home sales dropped by something like, I think it was 38%. And I'll pop in the number. Not 100% sure because I looked at lots of different micro markets that are within the market too. But in my hyper local market, in my zip code, the median sales price dropped by 7.8% relative to the same month last year. That's a change. That is a real thing that happened. And I consult with a lot of sellers who are in complete denial about the actual condition of what the market is, which you can bury your head in the sand up until you can't bury your head in the sand anymore. Which brings me to a story that happened just this week. So this week, I received a phone call from someone just like you who found me on YouTube that wants to buy a home in Florida. So after a brief consultation, we went into action. Now, the house that they are interested in is new construction, brand new, right? It's been on the market for over 100 days. Now, truthfully, it's not in my local market. It's about 2.5 hours to the southwest of me, and that's fine. We're able to transact that business, but I want to get into rapport with the listing agent as quickly as possible. I want to develop a relationship with this listing agent immediately. And so it is always very helpful for me to be able to go there, meet him, lay eyes on the property, and develop that personal connection. Develop that relationship. So my original intent when I called him was to schedule a showing and meet him, right? However, what ended up happening, and stick around till the end of this video because I'm going to give you the number one tip that every realtor or really anybody in any sales job must know. I'm going to save that for the end. Nonetheless, when I called him, straight to voicemail, left a text message, and it took him a while, but he eventually texted back, right? And so I called him again. He, once again, went to voicemail, and it became clear that the only way we were going to communicate was through text. Now, that's fine. I'm happy to communicate however we need to communicate, but I know the importance of creating a relationship with anybody that I'm going to do business with. And he refused to pick up the phone. So that's okay. We may do, but it became very clear that this particular property did not require me meeting the listing agent in person. And in fact, the listing agent was never going to show up at any of these showings. It's on a lockbox. I can go there whenever I want, and I will never meet him. And that is unfortunate, because creating rapport is a priority when you're going to negotiate with someone. You want to have a connection, and it's very hard to establish a connection via text. Nonetheless, this home checked all the boxes for our buyer, and this was unusual because a lot of times when I consult with someone who is not from this local market, they don't know the area, they don't know the house they want to buy, they don't know the subdivisions. Usually there's an onboarding process where I get to know what it is they want. It is very rare that somebody reaches out and they've got the home that they want immediately. But in this instance, they did, and they were ready to go right out the gate. They've got all of their finances in order. They've got all of their pre-approvals in order. They are ready to go, lock, stock, and barrel. They just want to get this deal done. And we wrote the, that is some sun. We wrote the contract, and full disclosure, the house was listed at $418,000. It's been on the market for 100 days. They have no other contracts. I know that, but the positioning of the texting that I was receiving from this agent was that they're reviewing multiple full price offers. Well, I know that's bullshit, because if they did, they would have accepted one and the house would be off the market. But nonetheless, they play their game, we play ours, and we wrote our contract. Now, we wrote an aggressive contract. We wrote the contract up at $380, which I know is a low offer, but I don't believe it to be a low ball offer. And to be totally transparent, I don't believe there is such a thing as a low ball offer. I believe it is the beginning of a conversation and the beginning of a negotiation. So getting that rapport is important, because I don't want my contract with no context to be interpreted as something other than what it really is. And I know that there are a lot of either newer agents, inexperienced agents, or frankly, there are a lot of arrogant agents that could take that contract and misinterpret it to be offensive. They could present it to their seller as being offensive. And the last thing I want to do is offend anybody. I want to get my clients what they want. Nonetheless, I knew this was one of the risks that was inherent in the way things were developing, but I can only control what I can control. But again, presenting the contract was done through email. And although I can write a heck of a good email and try to create rapport and tell a story as briefly as possible to give my buyers a competitive advantage, I also know that all of that's going to be lost in translation, because chances are they're not going to even read the email. They're just going to look at the contract. So in spite of the fact we did email it and I did call him to try again to create the rapport to be able to start the negotiation, I ended up with voicemail and text once again. And so I was fairly certain that my instincts were going to be right here, and they were. Because about 20 minutes after I sent the contract and the texts and the voicemails and the email, what I got back was a nasty gram text, which said exactly what I didn't want it to say, which is that the agent and the seller, who by the way is a builder. Builders should never get offended by anything, and neither should anybody else, because the truth is, this is the start of a conversation about price. We're trying to negotiate a deal, but it's impossible to negotiate a deal if somebody is emotionally offended. And they took our contract at $380 to be offensive, which is exactly what I did not want. Now, I wish there was a happy ending and I could tell you that we got this deal closed and everybody's happy. That hasn't happened yet. But surprisingly, via text, the conversation has continued. So I hope at some point in the future, I'm able to do another video where I get to tell the story about how we got this house under contract. But full disclosure, as of the making of this video, we are still in text negotiations. But what I know, and I suspect the agent and the builder will learn, as more time accrues and they don't get the number that they want, and they realize that we are a real buyer that wants to buy the house, they're going to soften their position, become less offended, and we will follow up and get that deal done. Or separately, somebody else is going to buy it. But I doubt it. And here's why. Because the exact same builder, same home, actually not 100% true, it's 100 square feet smaller, but a very similar model, almost the identical home, a little bit smaller, sold at exactly the price that we wrote our contract. So I know we didn't send an offensive offer. We sent a market rate offer, which is exactly what the November housing market numbers in all the state of Florida are reflecting. And so I've done lots of content talking about the fact that the inventory of homes for sale is growing exponentially. Well, it is. And I've also shared that the demand for those homes has dropped significantly, because it has. And the November numbers reflect that across the state and in almost every micro market that exists, because real estate is hyper-local. There are many different markets within the state of Florida, but they all reflect the same trends. Inventory is growing, time on market is growing, it's taking longer to sell a home, but in most of these markets, taking longer is not very long. We're talking about a return to normal. We're talking about a return to pre-pandemic numbers. We're talking about a return to 2018, 2019. Now, the prices have not reset accordingly, and I think that's going to take time. In the interim, people are still buying homes, but they're not buying them the way they once were. And they're not buying them knowing that there's 10 other buyers that are going to buy it if they don't. They're being prudent, they're being cautious, they are reviewing comps, they are writing realistic contracts. And that is the new normal. As I was editing this video, I realized that I did not follow through on my promise. I promised that I would tell you the number one thing that you must know if you're in real estate or in any type of sales job. And I hope it's evident through the video that I made what it is, but in the event that it's not, the number one tip that I can give you in the sales industry, in the real estate sales industry or any sales industry, is to answer your phone. Answer your phone when someone calls. Now, I also know that we get busy and sometimes you can't answer every phone call, but then call them back. Create rapport, create a relationship. You want to create that personal connection with whoever it is that you're doing business with. If you don't do that, chances are you're going to have a very hard time in sales. And that's it. Pick up the phone. Now, I hope you found this content valuable. And if you did, then please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend. And please check out my next video because I suspect you're going to love it a lot. And until next time,